everyone. Today we're going to paint this beautiful, whimsical little drawing, which is a cup of latte and 3 chocolate chip cookies on a saucer. And it's a very beginner-friendly project. It's really easy to paint. It's easy to sketch. I'm going to go ahead and trace it because I always like to do that, but you can draw it freehand, you can trace it. I'm going to put the PDF to the printable in under this video. So first I'm going to show you the supplies that I'm going to use. This is my color palette, and this is burnt sienna, and this is raw umber deep. This one, natural beige. This is rose madder, and then this is horizon blue. I might or might not use this horizon blue. If I do use it, I'm going to mix it with a darker color to create some of the shadows. And then I have my ceramic palette here on the right for mixing. I have my water bottle to spray my paints with to get them a little bit wet. And I'm actually going to do that right now because, and pardon my arms in the video, because when I do this, when you spray your paints, they kind of get ready for you to use them. So I like to do that. Okay. Then I have a piece of inexpensive watercolor paper, which is scored down the middle so I can fold it. It's actually a card. I really like to paint on these cards because I can then not only give them as gifts if I want to, but I can also cut it and frame it, use it however I want. Or if I give it to someone as a gift, they could cut it and frame it and use it however they want. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and trace this. And so I just have a piece of graphite paper here. You always want to make sure that you put the side down that has the graphite on it. That might be obvious to you, but it's not so obvious to me. So then center the image, and I'm going to use a stylus to trace. But first I'm going to also show you the brushes that I'm going to use. So I'm done with the supply list. This is a number 5. The green one's a 5 and the pink one's a number 2 round brush. This is a very small image that I have, but if you want to enlarge it or you want to draw it freehand and make it bigger, by all means you use different brushes or whatever you have on hand. And then I like to finish my work with black permanent ink pen and a white roller ball, which I might use the white or not. I'll have to see how it turns out. And so those are my supplies, and I'm going to go ahead and now get tracing. Okay, so I'm done tracing here, and you know, when you trace these, you can just trace the basic parts of the image. Like, notice I didn't add all the little details like the swirls and the latte and the chocolate chips. It's totally fine to just you know, have the basic shapes. All right, so I didn't mention, but I have like 3 jars of water. Have plenty of clean water to always be rinsing your brush, and some paper towel for blotting. And I like to use this ceramic palette. I just find that it works really well for mixing. All right, so I'm going to start with this beige, this light beige color, and I'm just going to see what it kind of looks like. Another thing I like to do is take just a little scrap of paper that's the same kind of watercolor paper and see what it looks like on here first. And so I do like that color. It's very light. I want this to be really light because I want it to just kind of be the background, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and just paint the cookies, all this color. don't know if you could hear my new puppy, Ollie. He is whining in the background. He's a multi-poo. And he is a ball of energy. So I keep him with me all the time, keep an eye on him. And he really doesn't like to be restrained. But I have to restrain him because he cannot have the run of the house. Okay, so I'm done with those cookies, and then I'm gonna go ahead and also paint just the outside part of this latte, the coffee part. And I'm gonna leave this center bigger heart, I'm gonna leave it white, and that's all I'm gonna do with the beige. Alright, so now for the next part, I'm going to take this burnt sienna, and I'm going to have a look at what it looks like, because I'm not sure if I really want it this red. It has quite a bit of red in it. So what I'm going to do is grab some of this darker color, this raw umber, and I'm going to mix it in. See if I can lighten this up a little bit. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to use it to paint the rest of the, like the outside of the cookies where they're a little bit darker, and the outside of the coffee. So I'm going to start just with the edge of this. And I really just want a very fine edge. And I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush, blot it, and take a little bit of this off. Try to blend it a little bit because it's quite a different stark contrast. And I want the edges very dark, and I want the middle a little bit brown, more brown. Now the thing with watercolor, and you're going to find this as you continue to paint, it's really all about the water, how much water you're going to use or not use. So I just like to kind of play around with it, and I don't consider myself an expert by any means, but I have been practicing, and I'm really excited to teach other people how to get started with this wonderful hobby, because it's so rewarding and fun. It really is. And what I find helps too is just to keep blotting the extra water off. And you can always add less and then go back and add more layers. And that's really one of the most basic things about watercolor painting, is to know that less is more. And I think it's actually a lesson in life in general. Less is a lot of times more. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the outside edge of this coffee. Again, leaving the center heart as it is for now, the 2 center hearts. Okay, so that is all we're going to do with this color for now. Okay, so now this is actually a very simple project because there's not a lot to it because the saucer and the cup are white and so is the foam, and so it's really just painting the cookies, the coffee, the little heart, and adding some shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and add this shadow now, and I just wanted to show you that I took the light blue color and that dark brown color, the two that I showed you at the beginning of the video, and I mixed them together to get this very light bluish gray. And you'd be surprised at how much water you have to add to make it so that it's very, very light. So again, I would take my scrap paper and just test it out, and I like that. It's very, very light. So I'm going to go ahead and use this extremely watered down gray. And I'm going to go ahead and paint some areas just to add some interest, I guess, or some depth to the project. And I'm going to start on this side. And if you had this in real life in front of you and the light was shining straight on it, it would probably create some similar shadows. Now, this kind of work, like, it really takes a lot of practice to figure out shadows and get them right, and maybe you've done that type of study. I haven't done a lot of that type of study, so I don't really think there's anything right or wrong about this. I think you just play with it and see how it turns out, see how you like it. And at the end of this, I am going to go back and I'm going to outline this whole thing with my black pen. So there's really no way to mess this up, because even if you go outside the lines or it doesn't turn out exactly the way you wanted it, you can use your pen to kind of correct some of those things. And that's why I like to teach this kind of painting, because it's so forgiving. And so you don't have to worry, you know, just go ahead and try different things, start a sketchbook. So I'm going to go back now with my brush and I'm just sort of blending some of these because I don't want the harsh lines for shadows. Okay, so I like that. I'm going to leave that for now. Okay, so now I'm going to paint this little pink heart in the center. So I'm going to take some of this red. And again, I'm going to make it very, very watered down because I wanted a light color. And I think also I'm going to switch to my other smaller, even smaller brush for this detail work. And again, I would take my scrap paper, kind of just see how that pink looks, maybe a little darker to me. Okay, I like that one. So I'm going to go ahead and just paint this little heart in the center. And so I decided to have the theme of my creative heart journal this week to be celebrating and savoring the end of the winter, because at the time that I'm recording this, it's towards the middle of February, and I live in Idaho, so we still have some cold weather. We could definitely get snow still. And so I'm just really, instead of wishing away the winter and wishing that it would get warm, I'm just thinking it's so nice to savor, to have that hot cup of latte and bake those cookies and enjoy having your oven on, because when it gets hot in the summer, we're not going to be able to do that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that very dark color, the raw umber deep. It's a very dark brown. And I'm gonna start painting the chocolate chips. And I like this very dark color the way it is, straight, without it really being diluted very much. Just adding enough water to give it some palatability. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just freehand in and paint these chocolate chips. And they do not have to be perfect. They shouldn't be perfect, because cookies, when you bake them, unless you're a professional baker, they really don't come out perfect. So again, just go ahead, go for it, have fun painting these, and don't worry about so much about anything with it, about the placement, about what they look like. Just add your chocolate chips. And my favorite cookie is chocolate chip cookies. Okay, so now those chocolate chips are painted. I'm going to go back to that kind of medium brown that I painted. It's not that I mixed. It's not the very reddish one, but it's the one that I mixed in with a darker one, kind of like the medium one. And this is where I'm going to go back and just add a few little more like details and layers of darker around the edges of these cookies. And this is just to add some depth. Okay, so now I'm just going to take some of this very dark brown again, and I'm going to add just some tiny little dots just to add interest into, so that it doesn't look so perfect, and just kind of randomly put little dots around. And I'm going to do some very tiny little dots in this coffee just to add interest. Okay, and then the last thing that I'm going to do with this coffee is to take my very fine brush in that medium brown, and sometimes you might have to rotate your work, your card, whatever you're working on a little bit to do this kind of work so that you can have the right angle. And I'm just going to kind of trace around this heart, outline it. And then I'm going to add a few swirls for interest. I just love when you go to a coffee house and they give you a latte that has a heart on it like this. I didn't even know that it was possible until a couple of years ago, and I actually got served one of these. I used to see pictures of them and think, oh, that's cute, you know, like maybe they photoshopped it or did it with AI or something, but it's a real thing. Okay, so I like the way that looks now, and we are pretty much done with our painting part, and we're going to go in with a pen now. Now, what you have to do is make absolutely sure that your work is very, very dry before you go in with a pen of any kind. And so you want to make sure that there's nothing that's going to get smeared by starting to use ink over it. All right, so for the last thing now, I went through, looked at everything, and I blended a few things together, added a few more little shadows just to make it the way that I wanted it, and then I'm letting it dry completely now. And so I'm going to go in now with this Micron permanent ink pen, and it's a number 2. And what I really love about this process is, like I said, you can cover up the pencil lines, you can cover up anything that you feel like was maybe sort of a mistake, and it just gives a lot of depth to your drawing, to your art. And it almost looks like you had drawn it with the ink first and then gone back and watercolor painted it. So I'm going to go ahead now and use my black marker and outline everything. Okay, and I am pretty much done. You know, when you do this process with the black pen, it shouldn't be like a dark, thick line that's consistent. It's kind of just like a light sketching motion, as if you were actually sketching it with a pencil. And so that way it comes out, it looks like it's almost like it was sketched in ink before you painted it. And this is called watercolor sketching, and it's a technique that I've learned, and I'm practicing it because I really like the looks of it when it's done. Now, what I always tell people is you should go back and sign your work. I use a very small pen, number 1 or 01 micron pen. And I like to I almost always just sign right here in the right-hand corner. Depending on it, I might do something different. But most images, it seems like, or most art looks good here. And so again, I use a very light touch, and I just keep it very small. I like to use my initials, and I always put the date, the year. And what's really nice is that you can go back and see your work, see how you progressed, and see how you're coming along when you date your work. Okay, so here you go. It's completely done. And I am thankful that you've been here today working with me. I hope you finished your project. This is just a really quick, easy project. I would love to see your art. If you want to send me, email it to me, I would love that. You can sign up for my weekly newsletter. It's really more of a creative art journal that I create. I also do graphic design, so I create this little mini magazine. It's a flip book online. It's totally free, and I send it Fridays at noon Mountain Time. And so you would receive it every Friday, and it's just a seasonal look at what's going on in our world as far as creative joy, and I love to send that to whoever would like it. And so what I'm doing now is creating these video tutorials to kind of go along with that journal so that you can do both. So if you want to sign up for that, the link is in my description of this YouTube video. So thank you for watching, and have a great day.